Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts Podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. With your hosts, Drew and Daniela. Take our hands and let's walk this journey together. Welcome back to another episode of the Meaningful Hearts Podcast with Drew and Daniela.
I'm very excited that you're here. Woohoo!
I'm excited you're here too.
No,
Virtually.
you.
But I'm excited you're here too.
Oh, thanks. But I recorded myself last week, so I'm excited you're back on the show.
Just so you know, we did see each other since you recorded last.
I know, but I'm just saying it's nice to have you here on the show.
Oh,
Jeez,
yes.
You know what? I take it back.
You can take it back.
Yes, I can. Watch me.
I'm gonna edit out all the parts where you said that. There's gonna be a big blank spot in there.
Yeah, you might hear us both sniffling and doing that thing. I don't know what that's called other than sniffling.
All I heard was like you shifted your
that
shoulders.
Thing. That thing.
Well, today we're going to talk about what it's like being sick and where our mind goes when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I know that most of us, when we take our time off from work, if we have that luxury and we have sick time, we stay home and we usually just get in bed and forget about all the things that are going on and try to get ourselves in the best possible place physically as far as health is concerned. Drink a lot of soup and liquids and things of that nature. While some of us just don't stop working and we work through the sickness. What kind of person are you, Daniela?
I think I'm the kind of person that listens to my body. If I like to push myself a little bit and I say, all right, if I really need to stay home, then I really need to stay home. But I do like to challenge myself and say, okay, is staying home and like in bed, is that actually going to help? Am I going to be able to rest? Or am I just potentially going to feel the same? So I'd like to believe that I have a good balance of like, all right, I recognize I'm starting to get sick, but I'm going to push through. And then if I'm like, oh man, I can't, there's no way I can do this. There's no way I'm going to be able to focus in my sessions. Then I'm like, okay, it's interesting that you asked that because as I'm saying that, I'm like, wow, I really do think about how I'm going to affect my clients in session. So I guess that's the kind of person that I am, because if I can't give my client my full attention, and that comes from having learned, there have been times in the past where I try to push through a session and then I realize, man, that was a pretty long session. I should have maybe not done that, or I should have taken the day. But I think right now where I am, I hope that answered it because I think I just rambled.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I guess answering the question and thinking about your process at the same time. I know, I guess given that time to actually go through the process of what actually happened in the past week and a half. Did I take some time off? Did I not? Did I just completely just push myself through? So it's like thinking about how you were feeling at the moment and what you did in that time span.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, in my career of working, I've done it all. I've completely checked out from feeling miserable, but I've also gone to work with 102 fever, starting a new position, a new job when I was younger. I remember this. It was my first day at a cell phone store, and I was like, damn, I'm not feeling very good. I had like the stomach flu, but I was feeling terrible. And I was like, but it's my first day. What am I supposed to do? Call out of work? So I showed up to work, and I was literally, I mean, it felt like the longest shift of my life. I was to the point where I was so sick that I was like resting my head on the counter. I didn't even care anymore. I was burning up with fever. I felt completely like trashed. I was done. And then I remember finally going home and then just letting the sickness happen at that point because I couldn't hold on any longer. Um, but there were times, I guess, when I was younger, when I was a kid, and you have a sore throat, you're like, I ain't going to school. Screw this. I'm not doing that. I'm
Mhm.
gonna any reason not to go to school. But as we become adults, we really try to look at our priorities and like, damn, can I really skip out on this? I know that last week, I was going to work until because I was working on a deal that you know days and time that there's deadlines and you can't hit the pause button on those things. They have to push forth. They have to happen. So you're kind of like, all right, I'm gonna push as hard as I can just to make this work. And I remember like I was feeling it like around Wednesday, Thursday. I was definitely feeling it. I was like, oh boy, it's even worse. But I went to work. I had a meeting. Then when I got home, I was checked out. And then Friday, I was really sick, and I still had to like, even though I didn't show up to work, I was physically working from home. I was in my bed closing a deal, like working through the particulars, getting paperwork together, and going through that whole process. And I was so bad. It was bad. It was really bad.
Mm.
Um, I haven't really taken time off from work since that. That was like the worst of it towards the weekend. And then I'm still sick though. I'm still not feeling very good. And throughout the days throughout this whole week, I've been kind of like leaving hybrid working, half at work, half at home, because part of me just doesn't want to let go. I feel guilty for being home and not working. There's guilt to it. Like me resting up. It's like, but you have things to do and you can't just let the week get away from you. And I kind of beat myself up about it, as well as not um, losing time doing my stuff in my routine, working out and things like that. It really does pile up.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the routine aspect and like working out and how your feelings of guilt play in there?
Well, part of it's progress. I follow a program, and for every day that you miss, you're behind on the program. The program goes for 4 weeks. So you push that back, and then you have to make up for that time to still be in pace to finish the program on time. Plus, there are different body parts that you're working out for so many times during the week, and you want to be in sequence with all that. You don't want to have gaps in between, and it definitely kills your momentum. Especially when your muscles are pumped and you're feeling good, and you're going back to the next day and feeling a little bit of soreness and all that stuff. It's like you feel like you're like running a race to nowhere. I mean, working out is one of those things that continues for me. It's progress, 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 and fine tuning. But when you step aside for a moment and you step out of that race, it's like you're just sitting there watching it like pass by, and
Yeah.
it stresses me out. It's also therapeutic for me as well, and I just feel great when I do work out. So not feeling good and then not being able to do the thing that I do helps me feel good is not great either. So it's a lot.
Yeah, and I know personally from our conversations that you're very hard on yourself and you get at yourself for not being able to go. And I guess that's why I asked you the question why, I thought to include that in this episode is because I wonder if people out there, if when they're sick and they're unable to work out and they value it the way that you value it, if they end up experiencing the same things and how they work through that. So, how do you work through that, or how have you worked through it? Other than listening to your awesome girlfriend telling you to be compassionate towards yourself, of course.
I always tell myself that I've been in these predicaments before, and I just got to get back to it and start again and keep going, and just one day after the other, and you'll be right back in the momentum of things. The first day back is always the hardest because you're like, oh, why am I doing this? I've given up so much time. Like, this is useless. Like, I don't know, saying stupid stuff like that. And then you go and then you feel great. Don't get me wrong. I was hacking and coughing up stuff in between sets and having post nasal drip and everything. It sucked. But it felt good to leave there, early in the morning and be able to, say that you did that. And I started my day that way because I think it's big for me. So
No, it sounds like it's just kind of like taking it one step at a time is what's helped you so far. I know today was actually your first day back, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could have took the whole day off and just made up for all the time I missed. All right, so I have to take some time off from work also to get back in my gym routine. So don't call me.
Yeah. I think if you were to do that though, that probably wouldn't be healthy.
Because then I'd be stressed. Then I'd be stressed about work.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
stressed about all the shit that's snowballing out of control
Mm-hmm.
at work, and all the progress I'm losing on work, which then I'll feel like shit, and then feel like shit about while I'm working out. I'll be thinking about it, and it's not good
Yeah.
either. So.
And then you won't have an effective workout, which I guess sometimes if anybody out there has experienced that, I think we can relate to trying to push through and not feeling good about the fact that you are pushing through when you're working out or like when you're at work. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, there were times in my life where I would try to push through and have my sessions, and the entirety of the session, I'd be like, okay, it's 40 minutes left, then 30, then 20, then 10. And then I realized that's not really fair. No matter how much I try to tell myself that I'm trying to show up, it's not really fair. So it is about those things. Something else that I wanted to, I guess, share is in my experience with being sick, something that happened, and it's happened to me before, and I guess I realized it this time around, and I don't know if anybody else out there feels or has experienced this, but when I'm sick, I want to do more, and then I give myself grace for not being able to do more. So like I'll tell myself, man, if I was 100% physically right now, I could be doing a workout. And then I'm like, but you know what? It's okay because you're sick. And when I'm actually 100% sick, I mean 100% well, I don't really have an urge to work out. Like it's not necessarily exciting. I've been trying to push myself in the last month or so, the last few weeks up until I got sick, to go on more jogs just to get the day started. I feel better when I do that. And then when I got sick, it obviously kind of fell off that. But I found myself thinking, man, if I could do 10 push-ups right now, I would. Mind you, I don't think about doing push-ups on a daily basis. So I thought to share that is that sometimes as human beings, we tend to want things when we can't, so that we can make ourselves feel better about the fact that we can't, almost like justifications.
Well, you know what also it is too? If you plan, like you're like, all right, this is the last of it, and then next week I'm going to go on a diet. But right now I'm not going to do it. You know, like it's, you justify, right? You're justifying.
Mm-hmm.
I would if I could, and my intentions are there. So it's like you're almost inspired. You have a moment to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people love to do that with a lot of things. Especially when they're going to school, they're going to college, and they're so inspired about how many things they want to do or they're about to do when they get out of college and out of school, and they have these crazy, oh yeah, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that, and this, and then it's like, okay, and then it's like, shit, I'm going to take another class, I'm going to take another semester and do something with it. So
yeah, I guess it's a form of self-soothing.
it is because you love to talk about even planning a business, you love to talk about the idea of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're gonna, you know, there's a group of friends you've had that are like, oh yeah, let's go do that, and then they're so inspired, and they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that, and every meeting is about what they're gonna do eventually, and that never ever happens. It's just it's a great, it's entertaining and it's fun to fantasize about what could be, but when it comes down to it, anything worth doing is going to require the efforts, and it's probably gonna suck. It's going to suck.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about push-ups. I'm like, I could do maybe 8 push-ups. Most of my strength is in my lower body. And I like, as I've been sick, I actually tried to do some push-ups and I was like, oh wait, I gotta stop. I can only do 5 because I'm sick, and that's okay. And then I found myself reflecting on it, and I was like, yeah, you literally just fell into that trap of justifying why you don't do things. But I guess that's part of the reason why I thought it would be so good to talk about this, because we're human beings and it's okay. But sometimes we do need a little bit of a push, a reminder that unfortunately you're not going to get results unless you put in the work.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to Tarun's podcast this morning, actually, while I was working out. He mentioned something very, very interesting. A lot of the things that we want out of life require a lot of effort going into it. They require a lot of us, but what we get in return is not equal as far as how much we get back in return. It's incremental. It's like you're gonna charge face first into this wall, and then you'll make a little dent in it. I mean, that little dent is going to stand for something, but we forget. When we fantasize about things, we're like, oh, it's going to be cake and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And when you actually think about what's required of you to make that first step, that first initial step, it's a lot. It takes a lot of us.
That's interesting, because I think that's circumstantial. I think there are things that would take a lot, but I also think that there are little things that we can do to ultimately break down that wall, like trying to chip away at a little bit at a time, instead of like trying to ram into it. So I think it'd be circumstantial depending on what we're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying in the sense of taking a big swing or even swinging at all. Like you're going to swing, you're going to put your efforts into these, like building a business or I don't know, anything. There's a lot of, mental capacity, physical, like all being pushed forth. Your efforts, your energies is all there. And yeah, you'll make little pieces of progress here and there, but the amount of energy and effort that you're putting in is a lot. It's an abundance. But the payoff is in these little chips, these little pieces. It's not like you're not going to skyrocket to the top in, one day. It's not going to happen overnight for you, is what I'm trying to say. And the fantasy happens, instantaneously. You're talking about your first couple of years, like it's going to be a couple of days of this and it's going to be a couple of days of that. And before you know it, it's going to be 10 years in and we're going to be these millionaires. And the fantasy, it works so quickly. It's so fast. And then when day one actually happens, it's day one. It's one day of 10 years.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I know that's all you're saying.
That's part of what I'm saying.
Thanks. Drew and I have talked about how I don't like when he says that's all I'm saying, because I'm like, no, that's not all you're saying. You're saying more than just one thing. But I understand. I still think it would be circumstantial, but yes, it is about the amount of effort that you put into things. You don't always get that same effort back right away. It's things that grow over time, which, I think that is part of life. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we strayed, but not really, because it still has to do with, our thoughts, our mindset, our processes, especially when we are sick. So if any of you out there can relate or can take something away from this, then I feel we've done a good job.
I believe so.
Is there anything else that, when thinking about being sick, that you've experienced that you'd want to share before we wrap up until next time?
I would say a disclaimer once again. However you tackle your sickness, you're out of commission completely and then you're back up and running, that's completely fine. There's no judgments here on that. Everybody handles things differently. Everybody has different tolerances for whatever. I'm not saying going to work when you're dragging yourself on the floor is a smart idea either. We all have different types of lives and careers and things that we're going after. But it's just it's an interesting conversation, because there are people that they never take a day off. No matter what's going on, they'll smile as if they won $1 million and they're probably feeling like complete shit. There are other people that they're slightly not feeling well, and then it's like, don't talk to me. I'm taking a day. And I'm not judging anyone, because there are people that when they do show up, they show up harder than most people do when they're feeling their best. And when they don't show up, it's for a reason. But when it's what you do when you're there. It's how you act when you're active. Yeah. That's what really matters, what you actually do when you're there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that, by the way.
Thank you for listening.
Of course. I have no choice.
Wow, you're a jerk. Well, I like to thank everyone for listening and thinking about this topic and how it'll affect your life. We appreciate you all, and we'll talk to you in the next one.